Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for your interest and also for the opportunity from LeanIX to present our little session here. What we want to talk about is the topic of SAP reference architecture based on LeanIX. Most of the guys or people I talked to today are questioning what are SAP partner and solely SAP partners doing with LeanIX. Maybe we can give a little bit more insight into that question throughout the presentation. So just as a little bit of introduction from our side, my name is Florian Masjosthusmann. The last name is East Westphalian, so not very broadly delivered throughout Germany. And I'm with Itelligence for 8 years now. I started as an integration architect, and due to some overlaps in contents and questions which we were asking ourselves, we developed probably 3 years ago into the topic of enterprise architecture management.
Yeah, so my name is Lehmann. I'm also SAP Enterprise Architect at Itelligence. I just came to represent Manuel here. He's unfortunately ill, so it's just a short replacement for me. And yeah, I have nearly the same background like Florian, so I also come from the integration architecture and developed into the enterprise architecture management skills.
Okay, so some kind of small agenda, just a short introduction, who we are, what we do, what Itelligence does. Some more insight into the motivation, why are we doing what we're trying to tell you, the methodology of what we're doing, and some kind of outlook into the future, so what we are planning, what are our ideas, and where is LeanIX the tool where we think it can help us further.
Okay, regarding Itelligence, we are already looking after a 30-year history, already founded in North Rhine-Westphalia with our owner who left a few years ago. We are concentrating on SAP consulting, but we had a strong growth in the last years. We are now up to 8,000 people, more or less, getting a revenue of 900 million. And over all the years, we had about 6,000 customers in the SAP business. We are not only located in Germany, we are now, what we are doing in total is, so what we call us, we are a full service provider in the SAP landscape. That means we are doing implementation projects, classical implementations, which are now in the SAP context, of course, S4 project. That means not always new implementation, but transformations in the area as S4HANA. We are doing the consultant, where we are also coming from. That means the strategic view or the strategic perspective. That means how do I, as a company, develop what projects maybe fit to my agenda, to my vision that I'm going to. So we are doing services all around SAP. That means not only the consulting services, the implementation service, but also hosting, application management services. And the last point is custom development. That means also the transformation and the products that we develop on our own, that we see, okay, customers are requesting a little product that does not exist in the area of SAP, that we can build into SAP as an add-on somewhere. And what we want to achieve is to have a long-term relationship to our customers. As Itelligence, we are not standing alone in the world, and we have our big partner and now also our owner of Itelligence, which is the entity data coming from Japanese. And in this area, we are also extending our SAP expertise. That means combined in the entity data network, we are talking about around about 12,000 people working in the SAP business with 50 countries all over the world. And currently, we are about 4,000 active SAP customers that we are in contact right now. We are coming from a department within Itelligence, which is called Architecture and Processes. We started our work in 2003, and we originally come from the integration architecture. That means classical middleware questions, SAP PI or PO consulting. This is where we traditionally come from. However, we found over the years that we have a great opportunity to also extend our business as a department. And that means that we are not only consulting in the integration architecture perspective, but also in the process consulting, which means to talk about business processes with the customer. Not with the SAP project behind, but just process optimization, for example. Process automation is one of the big topics that colleagues of ours are addressing. And, of course, the architecture management where we come from. We, as a department, we have around about 500 customers, and that means also we don't always work in implementation projects, but we also have our own projects that we, as a department, only deliver. So what are the things that we are doing in enterprise architecture management? We cluster this a little bit like this to say, okay, we start from the IT strategy. That means we have offers to say, okay, we are talking to customers about their IT roadmap. What are you going to plan in the next 5 years? What is going to change your business? And one of the main topics for us is to start from the business perspective. To not say, okay, we have a look to the IT department and see what they are doing, to start from the business, to talk to the board members, to see what is your vision for your company, and then to break it down via the departments of our company to the IT. Business architecture, that means process consulting. Of course, application architecture and data architecture, that's what we are talking about with interfaces and applications. So this is where our integration architects come into play, and of course the technology architecture. And all this we are doing in LeanIX, and of course with the extension of some other partners and tools that we are working about. For example, we are working also with the interface between LeanIX and Signavio when we are in a collaboration project with our process consultants. Okay. So, and in the area of LeanIX, what we are offering, we are talking about LeanIX customizing. So we have a best practice defined for us and for our clients in the SAP world, how we do a basic customizing for a LeanIX workspace and can deliver it. And EA assessments and roadmap, transformation of the enterprise architecture. We're also talking about cloud and microservice architectures. And the last point, EA advisory services and coaching. That means to come to customers to say, okay, how can we really build our SAP landscape inside of LeanIX? So how do we structure applications? How do we make the split between IT components and architectures and so on?
Yeah, maybe the most important information on this slide is that this is not coming from SAP, so this is solely for the enterprise architecture management purpose. So in that case, we are really going to the customer and trying to enable them to implement enterprise architecture management themselves. In the first place, this has nothing to do with SAP itself, so we are trying to work a little bit disconnected from this very close partnership, but this service itself should be solely for enterprise architecture management. So we are talking about skill sets, roles for enterprise architecture management, methods, processes which I need to implement into my company, the setup of EA boards, and so on. So this is completely not attached to the SAP part. And that's also the case why we're working with LeanIX. We did this already historically in the integration part of our history. We went to our customers, we made application lists, interface lists, we tried to visualize the flows of data between all those things, not the connectivity to the business part that was missing at that time. But we already had some kind of tool in Excel where we tried to build this, this use case. And at some point in time, we decided that Excel is not the right tool for this, and there might be professional tools to do something like that. And our interest is not to start big implementation projects for EA tools. And so LeanIX was a very easy pick for us to make because it's very fast and very easy to set up with new customers and in short-term projects. Right, so everything we do in this case is individually tailored to the requirements of our customers. So maybe a little bit for the about the motivation for this topic, SAP reference architecture. We are experiencing our customers to be driven from two dimensions. The first and for me most important dimension might be the business. So the business itself is changing very fast right now. The processes are changing very fast. We do have much more internationalization and integration of processes as well as applications and technologies. Because of that, we have the need to have more transparency about all those landscape connections, dependencies, and so on. And also the topic of these new business models everyone wants to accommodate for the future. So for example, a manufacturing company is looking into be a solution delivery company. And since the IT and all these business requirements are changing so fast, that there is a requirement to be more flexible and to be more agile, have a better time to market, because something which is right now cool and hip might not be cool and hip in 2 months, and I don't really have the possibility to implement or provide such functions in 2 months. The other part is the technology driver. And from the standpoint of SAP, I think this is quite clear. We are coming from the SAP business suite world, big monolithic systems. The SAP acknowledged that and the problem which might arise throughout this architecture from the past regarding the business requirements we talked previously. So there's also a lot of pressure from SAP to customers from SAP to change all their architecture, because they make hard limits for their products and say, okay, until 2025, you have to get rid of this and that, and you have to build up or invest into completely new technologies or software as a service products bought into the SAP landscape. And so they are also building pressure on the customers with that. And another thing is of course, that the technology itself is evolving much, much faster than in the past. We do have technologies that are relevant for 2 or 3 years and then get irrelevant or replaced or split it into 3 or 4 further technologies. And in this old architectural model, even for SAP monolithic systems, I don't have the flexibility to react on all those requirements. So what are the customers' questions which they tell us in all our projects regarding SAP. So we're a classic SAP partner and supplier. They question us, for example, what is the strategy of SAP? Am I investing to the right products? Because I think you all have experienced already that there is a huge breadth of products available. It's not the way anymore that I do have a CRM system, an ERP system, and that's it. But I have usually ERP systems, software as a service solutions, SAP cloud platforms, single services, microservices, and so on. Another important question is, S/4HANA is quite new and maybe not that mature yet. How well is S/4HANA, for example, capable to support my actual processes and capabilities? If I talk about S/4HANA, how do I get into the right direction with my transformation? What are probably transformation steps, or what are even my options to transform into the S/4HANA architecture? And also the question, which SAP products fit my enterprise? So there, as the guy from the kickoff or from the note from this morning said already, Germans are not that flexible in such new technologies. So if I don't have cloud on my list, this already rules out a lot of SAP solutions in the future. Yeah. And another question, what are other customers doing? I think right now there's a lot of irritation because even the SAP itself is not, from my personal perspective, is not really sure about the whole construct of all its products. So there's a lot of flexibility and movement even within the SAP ecosystem. So they're themselves not sure which of these products, which they have right now, will be the product they will use for capabilities or processes in the future. So our idea was to try to reuse existing recommendations and references by SAP. So for some cases, there are already recommendations. Sometimes they change those recommendations. Sometimes those references are available on the product availability matrix or in other tools from SAP, and we would like to reuse those and move them to LeanIX, for example. Our idea is, since we are an SAP company, to try to use provided business capabilities from SAP to make customers comparable or more comparable, and to help customers. And our customer area is usually small, medium enterprises and large enterprises who don't start with existing business capability maps. And our idea is to just start and say, okay, there are existing business capabilities, in that case from SAP. This is a repository of business capabilities which we can start from with you, and you can pick the ones you like, and we can extend this construct with you. And to a certain extent, we would like to try to transfer the SAP product catalog based on information which might be interesting for architectural purposes into LeanIX as well. For example, lifecycle information on the long run, not directly on support packages, but for example, for a product or a vision like C4HANA or something like that. Or information about, is this a platform as a service, is this software as a service, or is it really infrastructure as a service? So we can try to differentiate between them. And then we would like to transfer these reference architectures provided by SAP already, and also SAP is evolving those recommendations and references they give out to move those into the architectures of our customers. So, and there's another thing which is very important in the use case with LeanIX. All the tools and everything SAP offers in this area is solely for SAP products. So I don't know any customer who is working with SAP only, so they always have a world around it, and this is completely cut out by everything SAP is offering. So this is our idea, to try to merge those worlds into another tool, and to be able to not only support the customer in regards to its SAP world, but also from an enterprise architecture view for his complete enterprise architecture. May it be the business architecture or the IT architecture. So we sat together and had some ideas and ruled out some ideas, and at the end we came out with some methodology which we think might be a possible way to leverage LeanIX and the tools SAP is giving us to try to smoothen this way from the old ERP landscape into the S/4HANA world. So usually we would like to start with the project setup to understand the business model and the industry of the customer. For example, by management interviews, existing business strategies or IT strategies. The next phase would be the discovery phase, where we analyze the previously or pre-built business capability map, which we would bring. So, for example, our LeanIX workspace right now has 1,300 business capabilities in 3 tiers right now, I think. And they're, through tagging, sortable for different industries. Right now, the status is that this is the SAP view, so we try to move that what SAP is giving us at the moment into LeanIX, but we are looking forward into changing and evolving it with further projects. Next step would be then to link those capabilities to the application landscape existing at the customer, and that means not only to SAP products, but also to everything around it.
Do you have an example?
We do have some screenshots, but maybe we can show something on our booth later on. Then we would like to adopt the strategy. So I talked about we would check if there is any IT strategy, business strategy, or something like that, where we can work with those picked out business capabilities and structure we formed with the business, and to see what kind of architectural solutions might be fit for this capability or function or process. Just to rule out, for example, in some cases, cloud-based applications or on-premise applications, just to have some kind of fitting there. And then we would like to think about the future landscape and also model and document this into LeanIX. So we would try to think about what are the capabilities you have right now, and what would you think, or would we think, or SAP even think, might be capabilities for your industry and for your company in the future, and build some kind of target architecture for this in this kind. One tool which we use in the background is, for example, the SAP Transformation Navigator, just to check, for example, the most recent innovation on SAP, for example, which products is best for which capabilities, what are recommended products, what are kind of midterm solutions, or where are products where even SAP is not sure yet are a future thing, or if they will change them or move them out. And then we would try or plan to develop some kind of transformation plan. So if we do know what kind of applications and products from the SAP world, maybe also outside from SAP, are needed, what kind of capabilities are needed, what architectural principles, for example, like microservice or ZOA or anything else, is needed for each capability, and when do we need to have this in place, for example, because of technical obsolescence, SAP systems not in maintenance anymore, developments in the business, so that we need to have this capability by some point in time. We would try to create a transformation roadmap for each capability or architecture component.
Is this an alternative to SAP Activate, or does one sit inside the other?
Right now, there is no direct connection to SAP Activate from our perspective. Because in that case, we're not thinking the SAP thoughts, we're thinking the whole thing. And we would probably rely on SAP Activate or a methodology used in our house for the SAP part, but we would like to see the dependencies between, for example, SAP and non-SAP and the overall thing. Right. So the first thing is, and I already said that, we do have 1,300 business capabilities right now. We're working on making all the industries available, so we can, with tagging, scroll through those 1,300 capabilities and have some kind of a starting point. Where can we start with a set of capabilities, go to the customer and say, okay, this is just an example, this is where we can start, and we can change it, we can rule something out, we can add something to it, but it is already a starting point. The differentiation and sorting we would also do with tagging within LeanIX, so we can always put in or put out some views regarding the customer or the reference from SAP or the recommendation from SAP, just to enable the views. So we would select those relevant capabilities just as an example, and maintain the tagging. Today we learned that there will be an in-table edit mode. In this case, we are talking about the export and import functionality with Excel, which is also something which is good in LeanIX and not possible with any other tool provided by SAP. And then we would, in the next step, maintain all the existing applications at the customer. So this is more the thing which we do. Even if we're not talking about any SAP projects and solely AA projects, we would go to the customer and we would start filling up the inventory or the repository. We would create application lists, and that is the case in this scenario, or that is also the case in this scenario. So we have a filled repository and are able to not only match the applications from SAP to the business capability of the customer, but also non-SAP products. And this is very easy through the matrix view with an enabled edit mode. So we can just scroll through the business capability map, which we defined in the previous steps, and just add the SAP or non-SAP products and applications which we gathered in the steps before. Another nice feature is the surveys. So we can define stakeholders for each of those applications or business capabilities and use the service feature just to gather more information and to make it easier for the people to put that information into LeanIX. So there's no sending around of Excel files anymore, but directly working on the workspace. Next step would be the identification of the business and IT strategy regarding what things do I have to keep in mind if I talk about target architecture. I believe most of you are already familiar with architecture principles and the building or definition of architectural principles. But what we see is we usually have this as-is architecture, which we built up in the steps before. We have the business and strategy, business and competition part on the upper side on our kind of roadmap, which is defining some lines and guidances. And we also have this technology side, where we have the strategy of SAP or other suppliers, the products and solutions, and innovation of technology, which is probably building the sidelines or guidelines for my transformation roadmap into a target architecture. And then we would derive architectural principles which are less abstract to create some kind of rule set which can be given to people implementing this landscape. Next thing then would be to check the SAP product map, which is partly already available in the workspace or on other sources, to exactly this strategies or principles. And in this part, try to decide in which case would I use SAP products or non-SAP products, and why would I use those. So we would look into each capabilities and try to find out what are capabilities which maybe are based on very structured and stable functions or capabilities. What are capabilities which might be very flexible or very elusive for the future, and decide, for example, this is there might be a standard solution, and in that case we would like to work with microservices and so on. And also assess the existing applications regarding their functional and technical fit to create some information about the application portfolio and to make decisions what are applications which really need to go out of my architecture and what are maybe even applications which I have to invest more in. And also use the application roadmap to find this information on life cycles, for example, to see when some application is going out of maintenance or out of planned use, to see where do I have blank spots and I need to have some predecessors or successors maintained. And the next step would then be to build up this target landscape. So we actually would go and maintain the lifecycle information for the business capabilities application so that we can scroll into the future in LeanIX and see what might be a state of my enterprise architecture to a certain point of time. Right, predecessor and successor is then the glue between the as-is one and the target landscape. Yeah, there's several different transformation paths provided by SAP. And based on that information, on this roadmap information, on the target architecture, the timelines between the different types of architecture, which might influence, for example, the methods and ways I try to use for my transformation. So would I try to cut out some specific things and put that already into the cloud? Would I wait and start with a full-blown S/4HANA implementation and then start? Do I do it in several steps? And that would be part of the process where there's no definite answer, but this has to be worked out on the information we are gathered in previously. Right. We also would like to use the project view to see in which projects and time frames we try to change capabilities and applications, just to get a better overview throughout the transformation itself.
Okay, to come to an end and to a conclusion, so why we are doing this. We want to take the business-oriented approach. That means we are coming from the capabilities to assess the IT landscape. We want to make the SAP product strategy comparable to the system landscape of our customers. We want to use the visualization and the usability of the LeanIX. And of course, compared to the SAP products in this area, we want to spawn the focus outside of the SAP world to the non-SAP applications as well. We still have some more ideas how to use it. For example, the Ignavio integration to also bring processes into the game and the methodology. For example, S4 or SAP processes as well as Itelligence best practices processes.
Which are already maintained in Ignavio. So Ignavio is our main tool for business process documentation and management. And we already have linked the tenants between, but there's no connection yet for the capabilities and the processes, for example.
And for example, the area of interfacing, where we just want to bring in our experience from the integration architecture with best practices, how to integrate special systems. All right, I think we are already quite good in time. So,
okay. Are there any questions? Fine.